Mr. Barry, if you would just please start us off.
Thanks. It was last month from this time I came in with a petition to create the Snowshoe Resort Area District, and promised that I'd be here at this meeting available to answer any questions. I think by May 17th would be the date that we were seeking at the latest that you would be able to consider the completeness of the petition at this time and schedule a public meeting to hear the merits of the petition. With
Thank
that,
Okay, appreciate that. Before we get into that, if I may, into the petition itself, I did receive some questions today in email about the RAD.
Okay.
And one person stated that they would, it's Buster Varner, and he says, I want to let the commissioners know that I am against the Snowshoe Resort petition that will in any way affect the hotel-motel tax for the county. This money that the county gets is essential for our county to get to fund a lot of things, as you know. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Buster Varner. And I responded to Mr. Varner. This was all around 2:30 today or so, before I came to the meeting. And I said, thank you for your email, Buster, and your defense of our hotel-motel tax. Please know that the RAD does not touch upon hotel-motel tax at all. The RAD allows for a quote-unquote resort service fee that would be a 2% tax on goods and services, not including lodging. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Martin, Bob.
No, you're correct.
Okay. I think the RAD is a reasonable way to bolster decreases to the mountaintop assessment that have occurred due to decreased property values. Existing hotel-motel tax and beneficiaries of that tax remain unaffected. Like you, I would immediately oppose any hit against the revenue against that revenue stream on which fire, rescue, library, parks and rec, and so many organizations rely. Thanks again for your email, and please let us know if you have further questions. And Buster did email another question, and I'm not sure I know the precise answer to this, so I figured we'd hash it out. Would that tax apply to businesses such as restaurants and grocery stores?
Yeah. Yes.
Just simply yes. Any business within the district?
All retail sales.
Retail sales. Okay. How would that tax be reported? Would they just report that with their sales tax as normal? They have to send something to the RAD board, I
guess. The way they report their state sales tax, the RAD solicits a survey of the income of all the businesses within the district, reports that back.
Okay. And
then they pay through the sheriff's office. They pay the RAD.
Okay. I did get one concern from a business owner that was afraid that this would reveal, in a sense, to competitors their earnings on their business.
Well, that's why it goes through the state tax department.
Okay.
They already know the earnings, right? And that's how it comes back through to the RAD.
Good. I was hoping that was the case. Okay. Mr. DeBerry, I did receive, I presume we all received your email about 5 days ago. I apologize for not responding to confirm that receipt, but I did get the documents and I read through them. And the task before us tonight is to consider whether that petition is complete. For my part, I've read through it, and I do note that you have included in the petition that the ability to assess fees against the homeowners for capital projects would in fact be delayed for 3 years, that would not be considered 3 years.
Correct.
And that was a request that we put forward. I think individually, I know I put forward to you ahead of time that homeowners were most concerned about that. I know Ira Moffman, you're here. I'd like you to speak a little bit to that as well, and what your thoughts are on the assessment portion of things, or anything else on this.
David, I thank you very much for the opportunity, but I'm satisfied with the provision that has been put in there that would delay this for 3 years, give us an opportunity to see how the RAD system is working, and I hope build some reserve funds that would allow us to do almost everything that the RAD is planning to spend that money on by simply saving the money and spending it in that fashion instead of borrowing or assessing homeowners for doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give my fellow commissioners a chance just to say something. Of course, everybody here can speak as well. But Mr. Beard, Mr. Walker, do you have any just initial thoughts on this as we consider this?
No, I read through it there last week, and I didn't see anything that stuck out. I mean, it looked like, I know before it said that the property assessment would be delayed, and that's kind of what we requested.
Right.
Well, I'm like Mr. Walker. I've read through it, and everything is pretty well spelled out for me. I've also had a couple phone calls from a couple people that read it personally themselves, and they felt okay with it. So at this point, I don't think I have any questions.
Okay.
Can I ask some questions?
Please do. Yes. Tax office.
This assessment that's going to be imposed, it's going to be ran through the sheriff's office, correct?
Correct.
And how is that billing process going to work?
If there's a special assessment, which there are certainly none for the first
3 years.
right? Then the board would determine what that assessment would be and can provide the addresses for all of those to be assessed to the tax department.
Is it included on top of the real estate bill, included with the real estate bill? Is it a separate bill that we're going to be required to mail out?
I don't know the answer to that. The RAD would be responsible for any of the costs associated with whatever process. I think that the district board would need to coordinate that with the tax department and come up with a solution that works for everybody.
So if it's okay, so it'll be possible, of course you don't have any idea how you're going to bill this. If it's attached to the bill and a homeowner doesn't pay their tax bill, we have to sell a tax lien on that.
A lien can be levied. There, you cannot foreclose, take possession, set any sort of, sale of the
Just
property.
for the assessment.
For the assessment.
But
Correct.
as a for a tax bill for real estate, if it's not paid by a certain time, then the sheriff is required to have a tax lien sale. Therefore, that property gets sold. Say Mr. Martin decides he wants to purchase a rimfire unit at a tax lien sale. He gets it.
Well, so
What happens to that assessment?
So the law specifically states that the property cannot be sold
For the assessment.
For the assessment, correct.
So we have to determine whether or not you're going to have a separate bill or whether that bill is going to be included in a tax bill. Because if the tax bill goes delinquent, we are required by law to sell that property for delinquent taxes.
So it sounds to me that a separate bill sounds more appropriate at this time. I'm not an attorney. I can't answer that question for you. But what I will say is, at this time, I'm honestly just asking for the petition to be evaluated as complete or not. Then we have 60 days of public information process to go through, and then we're at least 3 years away from setting any sort of assessment. So we certainly would want to work together with the county on how that would happen. But I would need an attorney more qualified than I.
So if I have to do a
Right.
software update to include all these tax assessments, the RAD pays for that.
For their assessment of their fee, their fee's not going to affect what you do beyond the collection mechanism. And one of the things we're talking about is they're responsible for telling us how to collect it and the procedures. They've got to tell us.
But the taxpayer has to come to my office and pay directly,
Well,
correct?
however that's going to be done, they've got to tell us how to do it. Okay, because their governing board's going to decide those things. And like with, I think where you're going, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we have a piece of property we've got to sell for back taxes, and we sell it, what do? We have knowledge that there's the resort area fee due, or the RAD fee is out there. Unless it's reduced to a lien, it creates no special obligation on us. They've got to have these mechanisms in place to decide at what point they're going to reduce things to liens. They can reduce into liens. As Frank said, it's not a super lien where they can go and enforce it by forcing the sale of the property. Like a deed of trust, they can do, a bank can do it through a deed of trust. We can do it through taxes. They cannot do it. It's a lien, but it's not a perfected lien until they do something about it. So, you know what I'm saying, like file something. So if we get into a situation, just say the first year, we have a bunch of defaults on taxes, and we go to do that. We don't have any obligation to the RAD to protect their resort area fee. And we sell it free and clear of that unless it's reduced to a lien that we have to deal with.
And it'll be their responsibility if a homeowner doesn't pay that RAD fee
Correct.
to go to the magistrate, file the
And to
paperwork.
go through all the procedures that they would go through to reduce it to a lien. It doesn't automatically attach.
Which is what Snowshoe currently does with the
Right.
mountaintop assessment. Right, we send the
Exactly.
bills out to the homeowners. They pay. If they don't pay, we go to the magistrate and seek a lien.
And they stack up and stack up and stack up.
Okay, let's do questions. Do you have any more questions right now?
Well, I'm still not sure why they ever agreed to have the tax office basically bill for a third party.
Well, it's a good question. We need to find out more about that. If we vote tonight that this is complete, let's talk about that procedure for a moment. Bob, go ahead.
I think you need to talk about
Okay.
that procedure because this is the presentation here.
Okay.
What you're doing is simply having it presented to you. We have 60 days
Yeah.
within which to make the determination as to completeness.
Okay.
So I don't want you to I don't want you to feel like you have to do anything tonight
Right.
with regard to completeness. We do have a 60-day period. Frank mentioned he'd like to shoot for May 17th, and that's certainly fine if it meets with your calendar. But it's subject to your calendar, and we're on the 15th of April, so technically your certification of completeness is not due until June 15th.
Right.
Can I disagree with that?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Because we turned
Yeah.
it in on
March
March 18th, so that's why I say May 17th is that 60-day period.
That's fine.
I'm looking through here, Frank, I'm trying to find the part in the email that you sent where you had hoped that if we vote to, let's see here, bear with me just a moment. Got me out of order.
And I think the email that I had sent lays out a couple of dates that are sort of ideal situation. What I'm
Please lay that out
hopeful-
again.
Well, if we were to, if you were to, theoretically, if it were deemed complete this evening, then we become responsible to send the notice to every one of the property owners, every one of the prospective members. Our attorney, Mark Imbrogno, had worked out with Mr. Martin a process whereby we would actually take those notices with the list that I provided of all the homeowners, down to Charleston with an auditor and with the postmaster's office in Charleston, literally go through and say, we got this owner, right? Check the list. Got this owner, check the list. And we're prepared to be able to do that by next Friday.
Okay.
And have that, and then that would have, given that you have to wait at least 60 days after the date the notice is mailed to hold the public meeting,
Right.
I had laid out a couple of suggested dates that
Yeah.
that coincide with your meetings that
I
come
found it.
after that 60 days.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. I found it here. If I may, let me just read this out loud for all of us so we understand exactly what the process is. Mr. Berry had a